Hey, let's look into the IPMAT Rohtak paper pattern and the important subjects that you should be learning to crack the exam. If we talk about the paper pattern, so there are 3 sections to be attempted in 120 minutes. One is quantitative ability, the next is verbal ability, and the third is logical reasoning. Each of the 3 sections has 40 questions and each question is for 4 marks and -1 for every incorrect attempted question. The good part about this paper is that there is no sectional cutoff, there is only overall cutoff, which means you can spend most of your time in your favorite area, in the area which is your strength, and try to maximize your score here. As given in the table, there is no sectional time limit also, which means you can spend, let's say if your quant is weak, probably you can spend only 20 minutes on quant and the remaining 100 minutes you can spend on verbal ability and logical reasoning. But you need to ensure that you attempt many questions because the cutoff of IPMAT Rohtak in 2023 was as high as 409 marks out of 480 marks, which means the paper was very easy. Even if you're, if you're weak at quant, you will be able to attempt most of the questions. Let's move ahead. Let's take each section one by one. The first is quantitative ability. So everything, because since there are 40 questions, everything that you study for aptitude test will be tested in the exam, ranging from numbers, divisibility, HCF, LCM, percentages, simple interest, compound interest, profit and loss, ratio, proportion, average, allegation, mixtures, time, speed, distance, and time and work, permutation, combination, probability, linear and a quadratic equation, data interpretation, sequence and series, functions and inequalities, set theory, trigonometry, geometry, mensuration, logarithm. Whatever you study for the aptitude test, everything will be tested here, okay? But the level of difficulty of the question will be very, very, very easy. So out of 40 questions, generally students are able to attempt more than 30-35 questions. Okay, it's a cakewalk. You can understand 120 minutes, 120 questions, the cutoff going as high as 409 marks out of 480, which means the paper has to be extremely, extremely easy. When I say 409 marks, it means 103 correct attempt will give you 412 marks, right? So out of 120, if you have to attempt 103 correct, which means, your attempt has to be 110, 115 plus. Let's move to the next section, which is verbal abilities. Again, they test you on reading comprehension, fill in the blank, error detection. Vocabulary, they test you on antonyms, synonyms. One word substitution is something that they test here and it is not tested in majority of the exams. Phobias, they also test you on phobias. Idioms and phrases, that's phrasal verb, connectors, out of context questions, para-jumbles and para-completion. So everything again that you learn for aptitude test is being tested here. In the other exam, you have few questions, they are never tested, right? But in Rohtak, every question type in verbal ability is been asked, or you can say it's been tested in the exam. Moving on to logical reasoning, sitting arrangement, whether it is linear or circular arrangement, puzzles, matrix arrangement, groups and conditionality, coding and decoding, numbers and alphabet series, sequential input-output, direction, blurred relation, clocks and calendar, everything that you learn, as I said, everything. There are 120 questions, right? So everything that you learn will be tested here. Data sufficiency is something which is not tested in IPMAT and some of the major entrance exams. Data interpretation, again you can see here, it was there in quantitative aptitude, it was there in logical reasoning at times. So last year in 2023, data interpretation was part of logical reasoning, but in 2022, data interpretation was asked in quantitative ability, and hence we have kept in both the section. But however, in whichever section it appears, you need to prepare for data interpretation is the bottom line. Quantitative comparison, we saw in NPAT, they ask you a quantitative comparison. Here also they ask you on a question on quantitative comparison. So this is something which is not tested in IPMAT or the major entrance exams, SET and CRIST of the world. Then obviously they test you on your verbal reasoning, that is syllogism, cause effect, courses of action, statement assumption, statement conclusion, statement argument, the strengthening question, the weakening question, everything that you learn is tested here. Thank you everyone.